show.
Welcome to episode 156 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs are on fire. They are at 13-6-2, sitting in first place in the Atlantic Division. They are 7-1 in 8 games without Auston Matthews, although it looks like Auston Matthews is about to return to the lineup from his mysterious, undisclosed upper body injury. We are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on everything going down with the Leafs right now. But before we do that, it is officially time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing today, man?
Very well, Anthony Bruno. Always excited to be recording a pod. It's been a lot of stuff's happened since the last time we recorded. I think the Leafs have kind of done, I'm not going to say a full 180, but I remember our last pod being kind of pessimistic. And now it's like, I don't know what to say. I'm just tingly all over with these results and so much ammunition to chirp people around the city of Ottawa. But yeah, let's get right into it, man. Let's have some fun.
So as I mentioned, 7-1 in 8 games without Auston Matthews. I still can't explain why this team plays so well without Matthews, because it's not just this season. If you look at the history of this team playing without their best player, they're playing at like near a 110-point pace without 34 in the lineup, which is absolutely insane. So just give me your take, because it's been a while since we recorded last, on what you're seeing right now from this Leafs team. Because as you mentioned, we were a little pessimistic before, but right now it seems like you're ready to pencil this team into the Cup final.
Oh, the thing with Matthews, I mean, yeah, right off the bat, hockey makes no sense. And last year, the Leafs, I believe, had stretches where pretty well every star missed games. So you were seeing the stats of their records and what type of records they put up with those players gone. And what it showed was that they usually play pretty well when one of their stars is missing. The exception's Marner. They're like 500 in games Mitch Marner missed. But what I see anyway is, when, not just in this Matthews example, but whenever they're missing a star player, they really seem to button up. Like it's unbelievable how they just seem to play like more of a unit, and that you want to scream at the televisions that, like, why can't you just do this all the time? But it's almost as if there's like an enhanced responsibility to playing the right way, and they do it. Like there was that span a couple of years ago. Remember when the Leafs literally had no D? We had like Jordy Ben playing, and like Giordano was, and Sandin were playing top minutes, and they reel off like 13 of 17 or something with that D group. It's just strange. And we'd be lying if we said we were doing this without unbelievable goaltending. Man, Stolars and Wall. Unreal, man. 2 good goalies. Stolars, like this signing in terms of a value signing, people always talk about what's the best contract in the league. Now, I'm not going to say that I'd rather have Stolars than Cale Makar for what he's making. But in terms of value, for him to be putting up the numbers he's putting up, it's unreal. I forget which one's which. One of them has the best save percentage in the league, and one of them has the best GAA in the league. I think Stolars has the best save percentage. But we're getting goaltending. We're buttoned up. We're blocking shots. That's what I wanted to get to. There was that game last week against Vegas, and I looked at the metrics after. And in terms of Corsi, Toronto was heavily beaten. Vegas threw way more at the net than Toronto threw at Vegas's net. So you look at that and you think, oh man, they got lucky, right? We all go on moneypuck.com. Oh, the deserve to win a meter. Oh, we got lucky to win tonight. So as I said, heavily outdone when it came to shots being thrown at the net. But then when you look at the Fenwick score, now for those people who aren't as big as geeks as I am and Bruno, Fenwick is Corsi attempts thrown at the net minus those that are blocked. So the Fenwick was dead even dead even. I think the difference was something like Vegas threw 17 more shots at the net, but the ones that actually got through were the same. So it just shows like the commitment to playing a certain way. And you see it in numbers with that. And we all know about Tanev, and everyone's seen the charts with our top 40 all being like in the top 10 for expected goals, 5-on-5 against. But the top four is legit, man. The top four is legit. It's the first time in my entire life. And like the Leafs have had good teams. Like we've been blessed with good regular season teams, but I would always sense that leakiness. Like I was never fully confident of any score. Like make fun of the Leafs as much as you want. 3-0, 4-0,
Like you
5-0.
always thought something was going to go wrong. Danger was creeping around the corner.
Or you knew, even if like say they're up 1, you were waiting like for that big chance the other team was going to get, whether we get lucky and they don't score.
Who's going to make the mistake?
Right. Whereas now I feel confident with the 4 back there. And I think I stressed last time, maybe it was 2 shows ago. I can't believe how well Ekman Larson has turned out. Just unreal. He does everything. And it's that weird thing of like, I feel like I'm not even, I mean, Riley's been good, but I feel like almost I haven't even noticed him as much as maybe he deserves. But that's, I guess, a really good thing because the rest of our D is playing really well.
Yeah, it's really hard to poke holes in this team right now. I mean, they're on fire. 4 wins in a row, 7 of their last 8, all without Auston Matthews. The decor looks awesome. The goaltending has been incredible. You said it. Stolarz through 12 games. He's 7-3-2 with a 927 save percentage and a 218 goals against. And then Joseph Woll in 7 games, 5-2-0, 922 save percentage, 2.00 goals against. Like this team is absolutely dialed in. 3rd in 5-on-5 save percentage. So the goaltending has been outstanding. The defense has been outstanding. Even when you look at expected goals against per 60, the Leafs are 6th in the NHL. When you just look at 5-on-5 goals against per 60, so not expected goals, Leafs are 3rd in the NHL. So I'm loving that because this is clearly the best defensive team the Leafs have had in the entire Auston Matthews era.
Not even close.
But just like I said on the last podcast, I still need to see more out of this offense, Lepore. I am still a little bit concerned, and I understand they're winning games, and they're winning games without the best goal scorer in the league, without arguably the best offensive player in the league. Okay, I know Connor McDavid exists, but Auston Matthews is like when he's at full health, like we saw last season, right? It's very clear now that the season before last, like he was dealing with something the entire season. And I fear that it's going to be the same thing when he comes back now. Like this injury is scaring the shit out of me. So I feel like we're going to have a Matthews season a lot closer to that down 40 goal season that he had, as opposed to last season where he was scoring every single night. So I get it. They're finding ways to win. They're grinding out hockey games. But the offensive stats, man, when I look across the board, I'm still concerned. They are 16th in the NHL in goals per game. So middle of the pack. Power play ranks 16th. Okay. They are 12th in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. Middle of the pack. They're 15th in 5-on-5 goals for per 60. 15th in 5-on-5 expected goals for per 60. So they are a very middle of the road team offensively, which has not ever been the case with this team. And the reason I'm still concerned is because I am still scarred by these last few playoff runs where, despite what donkeys will tell you on the internet, like, oh, the Leafs can't play defense, they can't stop anything. No, they haven't been able to fucking score goals in the playoffs. That has been their main issue, like the last 4 to 5 playoff runs. Their offense and their power play just completely dries up in the playoffs. So when I see these underlying numbers across the board offensively, I get it. Matthews is out of the lineup, but I'm still concerned. Like, am I crazy to still be this concerned right now?
See, the way I see it and I've noticed those underlying numbers offensively, how they're not the strongest, but I'll just play the other side here. So we all know how good 34 is metrically, like one of, if not the best players in the league. So is it an excuse, number one, with some of those metrics that they haven't had their best 5-on-5 player for more than a third of their games. So
That's
like that,
fair. That's totally fair.
that could be affecting those metrics. You mentioned that the power play 16th. Yeah. So, and it got hot there for a bit. Like we were way lower. So I'll point out the lack of Matthews thing, and not even obviously we're winning without him, but it's going to affect the metrics of the team, the advanced statistics. As far as those numbers being where they are, they're not terrible. Like they're average or slightly better than average, and we expect more from this team based on the personnel we have and what we pay this personnel. But now are we getting greedy? Because here we are leading the division. I think we're 2 points out of top of the East. So Bruno, if we had the defensive metrics that we currently have, and then let's say each of those categories, power play, 5-on-5, expected goals for, all that stuff, we moved up, say, 5 to 7 spots. So to put us around 10 or top 10, well, we're going 82-0 now. So I don't know. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I have those nerves that you have with regard to scoring. But I think I'm not going to say we're in fantasy land, because fantasy land would be watching our team win the cup. But on the ice right now, Leafs fans are walking with a strut because of what they see defensively, specifically, and from their goaltending. If we were also getting the goals, it would just it wouldn't make any. We'd be chasing the Bruins regular season record if we were playing like that.
Yeah, if the Leafs were putting up the offensive numbers that they have basically every other season of the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era, this team would easily be the best team in the NHL.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't even be close. And that's what I'm still waiting for. And yes, maybe I'm a little bit greedy, but when that has been this team's calling card for 7 to 8 years, those are the expectations that I have. And you could make the argument, well, listen, like they're learning to play better defensively. They're a more well-oiled machine. Okay, I see that. Like, but they were doing that in the playoffs already. Like I've seen this team grind out close 1-goal games, tight checking games in the playoffs. I've seen them do that. And you're lying to yourself if you're saying otherwise. Like, have you watched this team in the playoffs the last few years? Like, it's not like they're giving up a ton of chances and a ton of goals every night in the playoffs. That hasn't been the case at all. They just have not been able to score. So again, that's why I'm still a little bit scarred. And I'm hoping that the tide turns a little bit once Matthews comes back. But I will admit, I'm still a little bit concerned, and I'm a little bit greedy at the same time. But when I know what this team is capable of offensively, that's where that's coming from. It's time for a quick break for a word about Manscaped. For some, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And for others, it's just another round of dodging questions about your love life while trying not to look like you just crawled out of a cave. Enter the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra by Manscaped to save you this holiday season. Get your bushes under control with the Weed Whacker 2.0 and the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. So many amazing products from Manscaped. And remember that you can get 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive code GFP20 at manscaped.com. Lepore, Manscaped just doesn't miss, man.
Man, it's the holiday season. You need to get someone a gift. Think of all the crappy things people have given you in the past and you've given others in the past. Don't do it again. Go to manscaped.com, type in the promo code GFP20 for free shipping and 20% off, and make the person that opens that present ecstatic.
Give that special man in your life exactly what they actually need to look and feel their best. So, use our exclusive code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Head to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive code GFP20. Let's talk about Matthews for a second, because this injury has been fucking driving me insane. The NHL, I just think, is the biggest joke, and I get it. It's not the National Football League. Like, gambling runs the NFL, okay? I think we're all aware of that. Fantasy sports, gambling. Sports betting is very prevalent now across every major sport, but for whatever reason in hockey, they still don't have to disclose the details of these injuries.
Stupidest thing ever.
Like, it is so stupid. Like, I would just love to know. Like, I think there needs to be some transparency here. Like, we're not talking about some third liner, some middle of the road player. Like, we're talking about one of the faces of the league, and no one knows what the fuck is wrong with this guy. All we've been told is that it's an undisclosed upper body injury, and he traveled to Germany to go see a specialist. So I think it's got to be like some sort of soft tissue injury. I don't want to be a doctor and start trying to diagnose shit that I have no idea about. But if he had a broken bone, like we would be told, listen, he has a broken bone, it's gonna have a heal in 4 to 6 weeks. He clearly has either like a back injury, a neck injury, a shoulder injury. I don't know what the hell is going on, Lepore, but I am still very concerned because I just feel like this is something he's going to be dealing with all year. And as well as they're playing now without him, and as ridiculous as their record is without Matthews, and I just looked it up, they are 42, 20, and 2 in 64 games. I'm laughing as I'm saying it. In 64 games without Auston Matthews, that is a 110-point pace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very concerned this is going to linger all season, and it's going to affect their ceiling when it comes to the playoffs. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
overreacting. I don't know. What do you think?
As far as the record goes, even beyond having that record without Matthews in the lineup, what I feel like doesn't get touched on enough when teams have injuries is you're playing under the cap. With Matthews out, the Toronto Maple Leafs are, depending on when you circle it, like 12 to 13.5 million under the cap and winning. How's that possible? Again, hockey makes no sense. Well, how much do you buy about this voodoo doctor shit with like the blood stuff, like the transfusions from some other animal, and apparently it's what McCaffrey got in his Achilles. I don't know. And the whole thing that he went there because it's illegal. It's illegal in North America.
I have no idea, man. You can go
Yeah.
down like the biggest rabbit hole trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. All I know is that if this was like not a serious injury, as Brad Treliving has mentioned, and the Leafs, have been playing it off as if, it's not really no big deal. Like if it wasn't really a big deal, he wouldn't be traveling overseas to go see specialists, and he wouldn't be missing 8 games if this was like some sort of minor injury. And this
Yeah.
has been lingering since training camp. I'm concerned, man. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be this concerned, but if he's going to be dealing with this all year, that's going to be a major problem, man. I know they're playing so well without him now, but like, could you see them
No.
actually like getting through playoff rounds with this guy playing at like 60%?
No, you need your best player, but one thing that's calmed me down about it is you mentioned, something that could be bugging him all year. Only sounds strange, but he's only going to miss 8 games and he's playing again. So I do kind of buy into that it's not something overly serious, or maybe they just came across something that had to do with a previous injury that's always kind of lingering and they could take care of it. I don't know. But had it been more games, it would have freaked me out. And is it confirmed he's playing tomorrow night against Florida?
No, not confirmed, but he participated in a full practice for the first time basically since he was sidelined with this undisclosed upper body injury. So it does look like he's going to play against the Panthers.
Okay.
Not 100% confirmed yet. Maybe by the time this podcast comes out, it will be confirmed. But yeah, it looks like he's going to come back. Like, I don't know, man. I'm afraid he's going to re-injure himself. Again, either he's going to re-injure himself or this is just going to be lingering all season.
Have faith in the medical staff, Bruno. Have faith in the medical staff. I think
the Leafs medical staff that they probably invest more money into than any team does invest into their medical staff across the entire league, maybe across all of sports for that matter.
Ooh,
but yeah, like it's I don't know, it's kind of scary, man. But in his absence, Lepore, Mitch Marner has been ridiculous. Like what are we looking at now in terms of what this guy's
here we go.
I don't even what are we looking at in terms of what this guy's contract is going to look like? I see you shaking your head.
Well, there's so many layers to the Marner contract. Like, when's he going to sign? If he wants to re-sign, if the management wants him. I think from the management side, if I had to guess, I'm sure at some point a deal's been put on the table. And this is what's so fascinating about it. I would guess a deal's been put in front of Mitch. that he could sign 8 years, whatever amount of money. Now, he obviously turned it down, or there just hasn't been the announcement yet. But so where do we go from there? From there, we go to the playoffs. The playoffs. And that's risky for Mitch. Okay. So it can go a lot of different ways. He has the offer in front of him now. It could go away if things blow up in the playoffs. And that could affect him too. So it all depends back to if he wants to sign here. If he's sitting there, he wants to resign, he wants to negotiate longer. Oh, because I don't know, man. It's tough from his party's side, because we can talk as much as we want about how amazing his regular season has been. No one's gonna give a shit if the Leafs bow out in the first 2 rounds again and he ghosts. So that's gonna cost them money, or it's gonna cost him a roster spot on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's so layered. The guy's been unbelievable. He's taking over games. He's just so unreal with the puck and the patience and the time he creates for others. He's the dream line mate. And I'll pass it to you, Bruno, and I'll give you some ammunition too. Who do the Leafs fans owe a bigger apology to, Mitch Marner or John Tavares?
Oh, wow. That is a great question, but it is without a doubt Mitchell Marner.
Okay.
To all those fans out there that wanted to run this guy out of town, be careful what you wish for, because this team would be fucked right now without Mitch Marner. He is playing at the Mitch Marner level we have come to expect year after year after year. He's an incredible playmaker. When Matthews is out of the lineup, he always seems to elevate his game. He ends up shooting the puck a little bit more, scoring more goals, facilitating as he usually does. It's just amazing to see him take over games. And again, shame on all those fans, because we were preaching, and at times it felt like we were the only ones in Leafs Nation. And listen, I know we're not the only ones. Like, the internet is the internet. There's people who aren't on the internet who love Mitch Marner and were probably, dying to see him re-sign. But it seemed like we were the only ones preaching to keep this guy, to re-sign him long term. And now you're seeing. I mean, it's really no surprise. I mean, we've been watching this year after year. And sure, could things go to complete shit in the playoffs? I guess they could. But there's no doubt about it that this guy is one of the best players in the league. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. And this team would be absolutely screwed without him right now, considering that 34 is out of the lineup. So shame on all those Leaf fans for wanting to run this guy out of town. And shame on me for doubting John Tavares, because I have not been very kind to John Tavares, and I will be the first to admit that he has also stepped up. Listen, I still don't think he's very good at 5-on-5. I think, he needs to be propped up by the other elite talent on this team. But the production speaks for itself. It just seems like year after year, this guy's putting up close to a point per game. So yeah, I guess shame on me for doubting Johnny Toronto.
Do you agree with me? Do you think an offer's been made to Marner at this point? At least some kind of offer to get the ball rolling?
I think so. I think this is going to be similar to the Nylander situation from last year, where it was like, holy shit, he came out of the gate playing so well, and it just seemed like the Leafs were like, all right, we got to get something done. I feel like they're having conversations right now, the Marner camp and the Leafs management. The number, I mean, Lepore is probably going to come in at 12 plus, and it's going to be more expensive than Nylander, but I think the Leafs are going to do it, and I want to see Marner sign here long term.
Yeah, even if we can get a trade for Crosby.
Well, I know you want Sidney Crosby on this team.
I want.
Would you do that? In all seriousness, would you make an absolute monster deal for Sid the Kid?
Marner for Sid?
I don't know if it's Marner. I mean, maybe it's like Easton Cowan, first round pick, prospects, go down the list. I mean, there's so many different ways you can kind of break down that trade.
Well, money would have to come off the books. And again, it all depends on whether Marner wants to resign and if they want to resign him. But I'm just putting it out there, man. Like, they were talking about TSN on it, and I'm not getting excited for this. I mean, I was a little kid when Gretzky should have signed with Toronto, and that would have been absolutely glorious, and it never happened. So I'm not going to get my hopes up for something like that. But at the end of the day, if Sid wants out, if you answer if all these boxes are checked, if Sid wants out, if Marner is not going to resign, whether it's his decision or the organization's decision, both teams would be down with that. 100%. If the Toronto Maple Leafs, if Mitch Marner said, I want Matthews' contract, 8-year, and they were like, you're not going to get it. Okay, well, now we have to trade you. If we can get Sidney Crosby. And then on the side of Pittsburgh, they don't want to trade Crosby because what are you going to get back? Getting back a signed Mitch Marner? Like, that'd be something. You got that. You can tell your fans you got that. And Dubas can pump Marner's tires trying to convince him, Mitch, you'll be the next captain here. We're rebuilding. We'll build the team around you, this and that. Players want to play in Pittsburgh when they're winning. From the management side, I could see both teams being down if Sid wants out and if Marner, for one reason or another, is not going to re-sign in Toronto.
It's interesting. I mean, it's fascinating, honestly. Listen, as much as I would love to see Sidney Crosby in a Leafs uniform, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
The Leafs are not going to trade Mitch Marner. I think they're going to agree to a long-term extension. It's probably going to be an 8-year deal. I mean, maybe not. Maybe he takes the Matthews route and tries to screw the team. As much as I love Matthews, I still hated that he signed a 4-year extension. Maybe it's going to be something similar to that. But this Crosby situation is fascinating because that Pittsburgh team is a disaster. Sid, he talks about how he wants to be a Penguin for life and this and that. But I mean, holy cow, at some point, you just got to move on and go try to win another Stanley Cup. I mean, we all love Sid, and I don't think any of us want to see him just rot away in that situation. But before we wrap up the pod, Lepore, what are your thoughts on the Atlantic Division in general? Because during our last pod, I said I think Florida is going to win the division, and now a couple weeks later, I'm like, hold on a second,
yeah,
the Leafs are on fire, and if they beat the Panthers and then they play the Lightning the game after, I mean, geez, they're going to build up a pretty nice cushion here.
Yeah, the division, surprisingly, well, lately anyway, hasn't been that strong. It's not what we're used to. We're used to this like 3 or 4-headed monster of teams charging up the standings, or just fighting each other in the standings. But it is a huge game tomorrow, man. It is a huge game. And I got a bad feeling. It's that's why I don't want Matthews to play. It'll just add too much to it. And then, they lost when he came back. Keep him out. Try to get the 2 points against Florida and then go from there. I think there's a lot of questions within the division. Let's go through the teams, Bruno. Okay, so the Leafs are what they are. I mean, they're on pace for what now? I think 104, 106 points.
109 points.
That high now, eh? Wow, underestimated my boys. Funny how you knew that right away. I'm impressed, Bruno. You're really good at math, or you had that stashed
No,
away?
I got these stats ready to go, man. They're in the holster all the time.
There you go, 109 points. So I think Florida and Tampa, we expect to make the playoffs, both because of what they're doing right now and because what we know about them. Boston. What's your expectations of Boston now? I don't know what to think about Boston because I said weeks ago, I think I said it on the pod, they're going to fire Jim. A new coach is kind of going to come in and they're going to go on a tear. And they've been playing better under Joe Sacco, but who knows where they'll end up. They're not getting goaltending. Their new signings have been a fucking disaster, man. Fucking disaster. People talk about the Leafs and their contracts. They got guys making big money who aren't producing shit. They're hot in the collar in Boston and the management. So Boston, I have no idea. And then from there, Ottawa, Buffalo's been decent lately, but I don't think anyone really believes in them. Ottawa, Buffalo, and Detroit have kind of been what we expect them to be, which is not terrible, but not good enough to be any type of threat. So I'm feeling good about the division. If I'm being perfectly square here, because beyond how well the Leafs are playing, there's a lot of questions around the other teams, and I don't have a lot of faith.
Yeah, honestly, now that we're a quarter of the way through the season, I'm pretty confident right now in the Leafs' chances of winning the division. And maybe that's going to change in 2 weeks, just like my tune changed from 2 weeks ago. But I just go down the division. Like the Panthers now have a negative goal differential. It's only
What?
-1, but they now have a negative goal differential. The Lightning actually have the best goal differential in the division. They're at +15, whereas the Leafs are at +12. Then you
Hmm.
have the Sabres, who are ahead of Boston. The Sabres have won 7 of their last 10. The Bruins firing Jim Montgomery. I don't believe in that team. The Red Wings suck again. The Senators suck again. The Habs are obviously still in their situation, whatever the hell you want to call it. So yeah, I mean, I'm very confident at this point that the top three is going to be Leafs, Panthers, Lightning. Maybe the Sabres shock us and sneak into that top three. But I think it probably finishes as you see it now. I think the Panthers kind of regain some steam and probably finish in the top two. I think it honestly finishes very similar to what you're seeing now. Leafs first, Panthers second, Lightning third, and then take your pick with like the Bruins or the Sabres in fourth.
Yeah, that goal differential thing, the Lightning putting up a touchdown with a 2-point conversion last night against
Yeah,
Colorado.
that helps.
It definitely helped. But yeah, it's not what we expected. Every year, man. Every year you're waiting for that 3-team group of Detroit, Buffalo, and Ottawa to make some sort of splash as far as the standings go. And every year we get the same result. I was actually at the Sens game last night. Big big win to end the losing streak versus the Calgary Flames. But I don't know if I've ever seen a team, like, totally off topic now. We'll talk about last night's Sens game. I don't know if I've ever been to a game where a team just kept shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. Like, first off, so Calgary scored first, okay, and they scored second. And the goal was called off for goalie interference. And it was even kind of awkward when Calgary scored because Forsberg got bumped and almost like they kind of knew that it wasn't going to count. But then it went to a TV timeout and Calgary challenged it. They challenged that it wasn't goal interference. And everyone's watching up on the Jumbotron and it's like, the fuck are they talking about? There's no way this is going to count. It's like a full bump. So they got the delay of game penalty. Ottawa scored as soon as that power play ended. So essentially a power play goal. And then Calgary took a total of 9 penalties, man. 9. The penalties were 9-2 power plays. How can you win? Well, Ottawa almost blew it, actually. They hung on for dear life to win 4-3. But it was very disappointing from the Calgary Flames. But you know what, man? I went down for the warm-up. I bring my nephew down, the kids, they try to get pucks and all that. So I'm like, oh, Kadri, man, I'll go to see Kadri skate around. The Flames were a loose team, man. They were goofing around, body checking each other, laughing, flipping pucks at each other. But Kadri, I don't know if it's the maturity thing, the age thing, all fucking business. Not a smirk, just dialed into his warm up, focusing on himself. I don't know. Maybe those rumors about him leaving Calgary are true, and he's just waiting for his time, or he wants to get the fuck out of there.
Just gonna say, Nazem Kadri back to the Leafs. Maybe we'll save that for the next podcast.
Sure.
Do you have season tickets to the Senators? Because Lepore, every time I'm on Instagram, I see you at a Senators game. Holy cow.
It's just I'm very fortunate to have some friends who have season tickets. I'm proud to say I don't know how many Sens games I've been to in my life, like probably like hundreds or whatever. Minus the Leafs, there probably hasn't been 5 that I've paid for. I just, people, I have a lot of friends season tickets, and season tickets to the Sens isn't like season tickets to the Leafs. You can get them and they're somewhat affordable. So,
Or maybe Lepore is just paying for all these tickets with his Bitcoin. Maybe that's what he's doing.
The way things are going, if I wish I had US dollar, though, the way it's skyrocketing, man. One day of growth in the US dollar, you could buy platinum seats for the Ottawa Senators for 41 games.
Tell me about it, man. But is there anything you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
Big game tomorrow. Big game. It's not too often you get a game in the regular season that you're going to be really dialed into and you want your team to fucking win. I'll be dialed into tomorrow's game. Like, it's that whole thing of, okay, you're doing this and now you have a chance to like really put your foot on their throat. Like a 5-point lead with a game in hand. Can you imagine where we were a few weeks ago? Do it. Do it. I'm excited for this game, Bruno.
Yeah, it's huge. Leafs and Panthers, followed by Leafs and Lightning. Massive 2-game stretch here. Leafs could really do some damage in the Atlantic Division. But that's going to do it for episode 156 of the Gluttons for Punishment podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Listen, whether you're a long-time listener, first-time listener, if you really enjoyed this show, consider giving us a 5-star rating and review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno. Go Leafs, go, baby. We will chat very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Con la máquina se yo, flow.